So today in Kyiv, the President of Ukraine and the NATO Secretary General discussed how to protect the skies over Ukraine and how to accelerate and increase the supply of American weapons to Ukraine under the Pearl program. One of the main topics between Zelensky and Rutte, against the backdrop of intensified Russian terrorist attacks, was strengthening our air defense. This time in Kyiv, along with the head of the alliance, are the chairman of the NATO Military Committee, the permanent representatives, and the deputy permanent representatives of all 32 NATO member countries.
6 countries have confirmed that they will contribute to Pearl. We won't say which ones. We won't say the amounts. Oh, that's not public information. We need to buy what can be purchased from the United States of America, just like our new drone deals format. We are working with our partners to make this format fully operational.
More than $6 billion have been provided to Ukraine through Pearl for the purchase of necessary weaponry. This will continue. We will continue to learn from each other in the use of drone and anti-drone technologies, as well as updated tactics. We will deepen cooperation between our production capacities, combining Ukraine's ability to innovate with the financial capabilities of our partners.
Both the Ukrainian authorities and Western politicians are now saying that Russia's reliance on terror is the Kremlin's last argument. In fact, this is a consequence of their failures in the war against Ukraine. But how long can Moscow continue to terrorize us?
Well, as recent experience shows, it took the Russians just a little over a week after the May 24th attack to assemble a new arsenal of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles for another massive strike. And such shelling will continue to be repeated. How can we protect ourselves?
Kyiv is appealing to Western partners to urgently provide us with air defense weapons and anti-ballistic systems. How quickly will this assistance arrive?
And what exactly are our partners promising? Olena Honcharenko looked into it. While Russia once again terrorizes peaceful Kyiv with drones and missiles, Ukraine is asking its partners not just for symbolic support and words of concern, but for interceptor missiles for the Patriot system, because we are running short of them. Just yesterday, Russia launched more than 600 drones and over 70 missiles at our cities. And according to some experts, the enemy could carry out such attacks almost every week. Against this backdrop, the president instructed that all state financial resources be directed towards strengthening air defense and announced a new agreement regarding the purchase of Patriot systems. However, he did not specify who agreed to sell them, but gave a week to launch the contract.
The task is absolutely clear: to speed up this Patriot contract, and this is the personal responsibility of the officials involved. The funds from the European support package for Ukraine, amounting to 90 billion euros, as well as our other financial resources, must be used as efficiently as possible to fulfill exactly those tasks that will ensure the protection of Ukrainians' lives. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
In order for the war to finally end, Europe needs its own anti-ballistic defense, Zelensky adds. Ukraine, together with 13 countries and NATO, is preparing a new anti-ballistic coalition that will ensure domestic production of air defense systems and missiles. After the latest massive attack, Hungary unfroze EU funds for weapons for Ukraine, which had previously been blocked by Orbán. And the Prime Minister of Denmark reminded Europe about the so-called Danish model, direct financing of drone and weapon production directly in Ukraine.
We support production lines directly in Ukraine. This is at least a small part of why Ukraine is holding on, especially thanks to drones and also due to other capabilities today. And it is drones that have changed everything, at sea, in the sky, and on land.
But Ukraine's skies need to be closed now. Last week, Zelensky sent a letter to the US President and Congress regarding the critical shortage of missiles and the lack of Patriot systems themselves. In the letter, it states that the current pace of deliveries of American weapons which Ukraine purchases under the Pearl program no longer matches the real threat, as Russian attacks are intensifying. Trump himself did not respond to the letter, but the head of the Pentagon stated that the US is looking for ways to help Ukraine.
We are changing our approach to the production of all these important munitions so that our companies supply not just a little more, but significantly more across the entire spectrum. We want Ukraine to be able to defend itself, and we will find a way to provide it with the necessary assistance.
Ukraine is ready to buy more missiles from the US, but right now the issue is not about money. There is a global shortage of interceptors in the world. Amid the operation in the Middle East, stockpiles are dwindling, and actual production is insufficient to meet all the needs of Washington's allies. Therefore, Ukraine has asked the US to grant a license for the production of Patriot missiles. But is it actually possible to obtain such a license? On the one hand, this would significantly strengthen Ukraine's air defense and speed up missile production. On the other hand, the Patriot is one of the most tightly guarded US military technologies, and Americans very rarely grant full transfer of such technologies. After lengthy negotiations, Poland received permission to produce missiles for the Patriot system, which could simplify logistics for our armed forces, and if agreements are reached, a certain portion could be supplied to Ukraine. However, this is a long-term solution while we need protection immediately, because Russia is attacking with everything it has in its arsenal. Olena Honcharenko, We Are Ukraine, United News Marathon.
But for now, the alliance countries are acting indecisively towards Moscow. And a vivid example of this is the situation surrounding the Russian drone in Romania. Firstly, there was no strong response from either NATO or the EU to the strike by a Russian drone on the city of Galați.
And secondly, Europe has once again demonstrated that it is not ready to protect itself from the Kremlin's drone provocations, which are only going to increase. This is obvious.
Monday, the UN Security Council convenes for an emergency meeting at Romania's request. The reason is the unprecedented strike by a Russian drone on a residential district in the city of Galați.
A Russian drone carrying explosives entered Romanian airspace, violating international law. The drone, which was part of the overnight attack on Ukraine, crashed and exploded on the roof of a residential building. For the first time, there are injured among Romanian citizens.
Everything happened on May 29th, and immediately after the attack, the rhetoric of the Romanian authorities was somewhat different. Thus, President Nikos Ordan placed responsibility for the incident on Russia, but blamed Ukraine for the drone hitting the building. He claimed that the Ukrainian armed forces shot down the Russian UAV, after which it changed its trajectory and flew into Romania. Nikos Ordan did not call on Moscow to stop the terror, but asked them to strike more accurately.
When the Russians strike Ukrainian cities from the other side of the Danube, they must be sure that they do not cause harm to Romanian citizens.
Besides the human outrage, this statement demonstrates not only political cynicism, but also the weakness of Romania's air defense. Every time Russian drones violate Romanian airspace, they scramble F-16s, but they are unable to effectively counter these provocations. Meanwhile, Ukraine is neutralizing hundreds of drones and missiles, thereby protecting not only its own territory.
Usually we try to intercept all drones, even when they are heading toward other countries, such as Romania, Moldova, or Poland. We try to intercept everything. If we can't, of course, we relay the information to our partners. We try to help them. And it's the same in the case of the Baltic states.
Because drones flying over the Baltic countries have already become a common occurrence. Yes, 2 weeks ago, an unidentified flying object freely crossed the border into Latvia and flew 20 kilometers before falling into Lake Dridzis and exploding. No one even tried to shoot it down, and the debris was cleared away by local fishermen. Just like with the Russian Gran, which flew into a building in Galați, Romania. 2 fighter jets and a helicopter were monitoring the UAV in the sky, but it descended so low that it effectively avoided interception. A former NATO Deputy Secretary General explains, drones flying at low altitudes are unreachable, even though technologies to intercept such UAVs have long existed, and this exposes to the Kremlin the weak points in the defense of the alliance's eastern flank.
For low-altitude tasks, we still lack adequate means. They are available on the market. They can be purchased. The only thing is, we need to set our priorities correctly.
In other words, Europe lacks the detection and interception systems for UAVs that Russia is currently using. And there are also political obstacles that Europe has not overcome in 4 years due to the fear of a direct military conflict with Moscow. The only ones who can boast about shooting down drones are Romanian pilots from NATO forces, but even then, not over their own country. In mid-May, they neutralized a UAV in the skies over Estonia, and after being shot down, it fell near the Lithuanian border.
This is exactly how defense should work. The authority to make decisions has been delegated to the lowest level so that we can defend every inch of alliance territory in the event of similar incursions.
The operation to intercept a single drone impressed the Romanian authorities so much that the pilot who shot down the target received an award from the Minister of Defense himself. The strike on Romania is not just a provocation by Russia, but a test of NATO's readiness to withstand Russian attacks. And so far, the alliance has failed the test. Meanwhile, the military committee of the bloc has warned against overreacting to drones in the EU. But Moscow, it seems, doesn't care where its UAVs hit in the European Union, since they've already realized that there won't be an adequate response from the alliance for now. From Brussels, Anna Hrishina, We Are Ukraine. Marathon United News.